We are adventurers, the people who seek out new and exciting experiences. The people who take the road less traveled, forge through dirt, mud, rocks, and water, all to be in places few people get to be and see wonders few people get to see. But like the explorers that went before us, we struggled with the same basic needs. The same needs we all struggle with: shelter, water, food. Luckily for us, the pathfinders in this modern age, it's easier than ever to make sure we have the right gear to take us wherever the map may lead. No longer do we struggle with how to keep food fresh on our journeys. It's what helps us as overlanders stay out longer, go deeper into nature, and yet, let's be honest, stay just a little bit bougie. Recently, BougeRV sent me this Rocky 40-liter dual-zone fridge and freezer to review, and it's actually allowed me to do some things that I've never done before. Like have ice cream at camp, because nothing says I'm braving the wild like ice cream on a stick. Okay, so ice cream on the trail is like a super nice bougie convenience. They'll admit, totally unnecessary, but when you've just spent like an hour trying to chainsaw a tree and you're stuck on the side of the trail waiting for batteries to charge, ice cream is pretty nice. All right, so let's talk a little bit more about the BougeRV Rocky 40. This is a really nice, high quality stainless steel fridge. Embedded around the edges are a really nice hard plastic that feels really, really strong and durable. The handles here are spring loaded. They do not rattle, so they stay nice and tight. So when you're bouncing around on the trails a little bit, you're not gonna hear any rattling coming from the fridge. The nice thing about this is that it's stainless steel instead of aluminum, so you know it's magnetic. You can stick things to it. I'm a big fan of being able to like stick magnet flashlights to things if I need it. So I do like that. The fridge itself has a couple of other features that I've never had in a fridge before that I really like. The first is that it doesn't have latches on the side. It's got one sort of main latch here in the front, like a lot of fridges do, but all the fridges I've ever had have a latch here, and with the way my back of my Jeep is set up, oftentimes I have to move stuff really out of the way in order to unlatch the fridge. In this case, it's all sort of self-contained. It doesn't open up further in the back, so the latch is easy to get to from the side. The other nice thing about this that is different than any of my other fridges is you have the ability to switch the side that the top opens up on. So you can actually take the top off, flip it around, switch it so it opens up this direction. Honestly, might be something I do for just the way my Jeep is set up. After having used it this week on the Georgia Traverse, if I use this fridge again here, I might switch the top around just to open it from the other side. Just probably going to be easier for what I do. I will say the one thing about it is that you only get to have the freezer fridge combo with the freezer in this front compartment, which is over the compressor, and the fridge is in the back. It's not a huge deal. It just seems like a lot of freezer space, and I would love to have a little bit more fridge space and a little bit less freezer space. But again, everyone's situation is a little bit unique, and you can kind of figure that out on your own with what you want. Honestly, 9 times out of 10, I would probably use this as a single zone fridge and not use the freezer functions at all, just to have lots of room for my drinks and stuff, because I like to have cold drinks and stuff when I get to camp. And having the freezer mode here and having ice cream is great, but in all honesty, going out for me personally, I'm probably gonna keep this as just a fridge. One of the other really cool things about this particular fridge is it has the option for a battery. So you can buy another battery for this. It's about $200, and it'll give you about 5 hours of battery life just on that you can either use just for the fridge itself or to supplement another battery. But speaking of power consumption, at least in the dual zone fridge freezer mode, it eats up a lot of power. So this is pretty consistently running at about 24, 25 watts, meaning my 500 watt battery station will run this for just about 24 hours, which is a lot less than some of my other fridges. But again, it's using a lot more power because I've got it set in a freezer mode right now. So it's half freezer, half fridge, and that's just taking up a lot more power. It wouldn't take up quite as much if I was just in fridge mode. But that being said, you really need to make sure that your power situation is figured out when you go out on the trail, because you may be used to getting 36 hours out of a fridge, and if you've got this set in a dual zone, you may only get 24 hours out of it. Up top here we have some pretty simple controls. You can adjust the temperature for either side or the unit as a whole, turn it on and off, things like that. You can change it from max to eco, and that's just going to sort of tell the fridge how hard to run. I've been running it in eco just to try to save as much power as possible. That being said, there's also a Bluetooth app that you can use to both set the fridge up and set the temperatures. Also, I use it a lot to check on it from the front of the Jeep to make sure that this is still running and make sure it doesn't have any issues. Because while the BougeRV is a great fridge for overlanding, it doesn't do well at extremes. So extreme angles, like if you go over 40%, I'm not sure what the actual number is, but this is not meant to be a fridge that would do well in like a rock crawling situation. So doing things like the Georgia Traverse, great. Doing Hell's Revenge, probably not great. But you want to make sure that, you know, it stays on and doesn't error out if you do end up hitting some type of extreme stuff. And I find that the Bluetooth app for that works really well. So inside of this, what you're going to find is two separate compartments, and there's a divider in the middle. If you take the divider out, it turns it into a single zone unit. So you can take the divider out and turn it into a fridge or a freezer, but once that divider's out, you can't separate out the two zones, obviously. You also have baskets to help keep things organized and help you get, you know, your food out easily. But honestly, if I was going to run this in a single zone, I'd probably just remove the baskets altogether and just get that much more space out of it. So the Rocky series fridge comes in several sizes. This is actually the smallest at the Rocky 40. It's a 40 liter. And then you also have a 52, a 65, and a 78. And my buddy Will, who's with us on this trip, is actually running the same fridge, just as the 52 liter. All right, so there's a lot of things that I really do like about this fridge. It's really well built. It's a solid fridge. I love the look of it. The stainless steel on here, you know I love my stainless steel fridges, so this is definitely, from an aesthetic standpoint, something I really like. It's got a ton of room on the inside. I don't love how much power the compressor takes, particularly in the fridge mode. I would need a bigger battery to feel really comfortable. We've been on this trail for this is our 4th day, and I'm still able to run it without any issues, and I haven't had to like jump into solar. It does actually have its own solar compartment, so you can run solar directly into this fridge. I'm not quite sure what scenario would work for me to be able to do that. I think running it off of a power station is much more likely for most people in the overland community. But you know, maybe if you're base camping for a long time or something like that, and you've got the spare battery in here and you want to charge it that way, that's a reason that you could use the solar inputs. But other than that, I don't know that I would use that a lot. Obviously, as a stainless steel surface, if you've got something on top of here and it's moving around, it could rub it and scratch it and things like that. Stainless steel will also dent a little bit easier than some of this hard plastic will. But those are just sort of aesthetic things. It's not going to change the functionality of the fridge itself. And then I've had a little bit of a hard time keeping it, and it's just because it's in that dual zone. It's just hard for a fridge like this to maintain the temperatures that you set it at. So like right now, I've had the fridge set at 0, the freezer, sorry, set at 0, and the fridge set at 35. The fridge stays around 35, 36, but the freezer is staying closer to like 19, 10, stuff like that. It hasn't ever really gotten down to 0. So that said, it's not a huge deal. Like you put water, you put something in there, it's all gonna freeze still. It stays below 32 degrees, but it doesn't regulate the temperatures the same way that it would if the fridge was just set in a single zone and it was just in fridge or just in freezer. It's gotta kind of battle that balance of fridge freezer, and so it takes a little bit more work for the compressor, and your temperatures aren't quite as stable. But I actually have really enjoyed having the fridge on this trip. I think it's worked out really well, and this may end up being the fridge that I use on a lot of my trips from now on. If you're interested in this fridge, there'll be a link in the description down below. You can actually save 18% using the code SIMPLY. It doesn't cost you anything extra, and it helps out the channel just a little bit, so I'd appreciate it if you use that link if this is something you're interested in. So whether it's over the mountains and through the river, no matter where your journey takes you, It's nice to know at the end, whether you're staring at the stars or fellowshipping with friends around the fire, that at the end of the night, you can always bribe the kids to go to bed with ice cream.